We have 1 minute to go. 10 a.m. We will play the video. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests and participants from around the world. Welcome to our Health Per Charcha webinar, your weekly health companion. I am Vigya Roy, Chief Program Coordinator for HEAL Foundation. Today's topic of discussion is not only relevant, but crucial in today's fast-paced world. Webinar, Unplugging for Wellness, how your phone and diet impact your mind and body. In a world where technology has become an inseparable part of our lives and where the food choices we make greatly influence our well-being, it's imperative to pause and reflect on the impacts of these elements they have on our health. We will also be talking about addiction of any form, which is harmful for our lives, and what alternative therapies are available to fight these addictions. As we embark on this journey of exploration and discovery, I now welcome Mr. R. Shankar, President of HEAL Foundation, to take over the E stage, introduce our speakers, and steer the anchor of today's webinar. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Vigya. And first of all, a very happy Easter to all of you. We are on this happy occasion, we start an important webinar. As Vigya said, I'm Shankar Raj, the President of HEAL Foundation, and my co-host, of course, I'll reintroduce you as Vigya Roy, Chief Program Coordinator. The Health Medical Academy for Preventive Health has been actively engaged in community outreach through focused prevention and health awareness campaigns and programs. Responding to the increasing numbers of health issues due to overuse of mobile phones and other burning issues like drugs, smoking, and alcohol consumers year after year, the Asian College of Health for Health and Health Empowerment was established. The Asian College of Health Empowerment seeks to create a movement centered around raising awareness of the harm caused by these addictions. It is firmly rooted in the belief and respect for the rights of individuals struggling with issues, including the silent menace of smartphone addiction. The fifth episode is on unplugging for wellness, how your phone and diet impact your mind and body. As Vigya said, it's a very burning and current topic. To speak on more on this topic, we have with us Dr. Mantosh Kumar, Senior Consultant, Department of Mental Health and Behavioral Science, Fortis Memorial Research Institute, Gurgaon. He's an expert in working with individuals suffering from major mental illnesses. His special interests are in adult psychiatry, substance and behavioral addictions, child psychiatry, geriatric psychiatry, consultation and licensed psychiatry. Joining him would be Kanika Malhotra, Senior Clinical Dietitian and Honorary Advisor at the Asian Coalition for Health Empowerment. She comes with more than 16 years experience in hospital and corporate organizations. She's certified education specialist in sports nutrition and comes with considerable experience in leading chronic disease management such as diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, nephrology, and mental health. Dr. Kumar, I would now welcome you to start the session with your introductory talk. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for the warm welcome, Mr. Shankar and Vigya. It's always a pleasure joining HEAL Foundation and bringing about awareness regarding various health issues and specifically around addiction. Uh, let's start from first understanding how communication has developed over centuries, right? So human beings started, communicating through forms of art, making wall paintings, cave paintings. They moved on to, developing some form of language, and then they started writing their dialects there, everything started from there on. And over the years, over the decades, um, some form of communication started in the print media, then came radio, then came television, and then with that came our very own desktop and laptops. And then finally, we are here doing our session, talking, communicating over smartphones, using internet across the globe. So communication has kind of connected all of us in a very, very fruitful way, so as to bring about, topics, discussions, conversations, important matters can be discussed. But at the same time, this media that we are using also becomes one of the ways by which a lot of information, it can be wrong information, it can be useful information, is also propagated. So here we are talking about addiction, and a lot of times people don't understand what addiction is. People think that it is a problem of willpower, it's a problem of weak personality, it's a problem of character of an individual. But first and foremost, one has to understand addiction is a medical illness. Now, what is addiction? In broader terms, addiction is use of any substance or any behavior that an individual, engages in, and the person and individual is fully aware that this kind of an activity or use of substance is harming them, and yet they are not able to control the use of substance or engaging in that particular behavior that is harming them. So we see that there is lack of control, we see there is use that is harming the individual, and the person is understanding that they are getting harmed by this whole process, whether it is some form of behavior or it is some form of substance. Now, if we look into the deeper aspects of understanding addiction as a medical illness, what exactly happens? So any form of substance that an individual takes, goes inside the body, it creates certain changes, reaches the brain, brings about certain changes in the brain as well. Now, that was substance, but there are certain behavioral addictions also. The behavioral addictions were earlier not considered to be addiction as such, they were considered to be impulse control disorder, as in the person is not able to control their impulse. But later, with a lot of scientific research, data, it was understood that even behavioral issues can become addictions because they bring about the similar changes, whether it is physical changes in the brain, neurochemical changes, or emotional changes that an individual experiences due to that behavior. It's very similar to the substance use. So that is why certain behaviors were also included in addiction disorders. So addiction is then categorized as, or we can understand addiction, any form of addiction, by understanding that there is some bit of tolerance to that individual substance or that kind of behavior that the person is engaging. So what is tolerance? Tolerance is that earlier I would spend 5 minutes on my phone, but now what has happened? 5 minutes does nothing to me. I have to use my phone every 5 minutes actually. So I keep on using my phone more and more. Okay, I keep on engaging in more and more form of either online shopping or online social media platform or online gaming. So the use of phone and smartphones increases. The tolerance has developed that 5-10 minutes doesn't do anything to me. So for me, I need to kind of to reach that, to feel that kick, to feel that enjoyment or pleasure. I have to use it more and more. Then what happens is the person develops some form of urge to use it. So let's say I'm sitting in a meeting and I'm completely there, surrounded by people. but suddenly there is an urge to use my phone. My hand will automatically go towards my phone, reach out to the pocket, reach out to the desk where the phone is kept, and I'll just use it. And that use will be so very, very automatic that I won't even realize that I'm doing it in front of a public where social situation does not is not I'm not expected to be doing that. So you are experiencing a lot of urge, and then you are using the smartphone. Now, what also happens is lack of control. Lack of control is in a very simple way, and to make you understand. Let's say it's almost like 10 in the night, and I should be switching off my lights, and should be switching off my phone and everything. I should be sleeping. But what happens is because I am so very addicted to the use of phone, I'm not able to switch it off. Even if I go switch off the lights, I'll still pick up the phone and I'll try to scroll or do whatever with the phone, whether use WhatsApp, whether use Facebook or Instagram or whatever platform that I am, using at that moment. So lack of control. And the fourth aspect is they want to stop it. They understand that this is impacting their life now and they want to stop it, but they're not able to stop it. So an individual might kind of decided, okay, I'm not going to use my phone now, I'm trying to create some discipline in my life, and let's say 9 p.m. and I'll keep the phone away. What happens is I might be able to do it for 1 day, 2 days, 5 days, but I'll go back to the same pattern after 6 days or 7 days, or maybe after not even 24 hours. So there is lack of control. So these are the reasons why even behavioral problems were considered as addiction, because they also engage the same neurochemical pathways in the brain, which is called as reward system. So that leads to a lot of release of dopamine. Every time that I use my phone, it creates that kind of a burst of dopamine, and that leads to a pattern of behavior which is not under my own control now. So that is what addiction is. Now, why does an individual get addicted to any form of substance or any form of behavior? So, by the way, going back to some things like the basics of it. As of now, in our science, we use certain classification system internationally, whether it is International Classification of Disorders or whether it is DSM, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, which is used primarily in US. So they have given behavioral addictions. Only two categories have been included right now. One being the gambling disorder, and the second being the internet gaming disorder. So these are the only two categories of behavioral addictions. But the science is really catching up with the fact that a lot of people now, because of the ease of use of phone that they have, this is an upcoming addiction that is developing very fast. So whether it is online shopping, whether it is watching a lot of porn on the phone, so whether it is online just social media use, so these are all increasing with the use of smartphones that we have because of the ease of use. And now coming back to India specifically, almost every individual above the age of 18, whether they are in the urban population or rural population, urban obviously definitely more compared to the rural population, but definitely there's a lot of use of smartphones and the internet, the ease of access of internet, the ease of Wi-Fi in India in urban cities has led to a lot of smartphone usage and a lot of internet usage on the smartphones. Now, what happens in such kinds of addiction? What exactly, an individual experiences? A lot of times, an individual experiences a lot of fatigue because of the constant use of smartphone, and they will not realize that this is because of the smartphone usage, but they will experience a constant fatigue. The fatigue doesn't necessarily mean that it will happen around the eyes because eyes are constantly watching, but it is about the spine, the level. So there's always, the hunching of the back of the individual, the constant use of, phones. Some people experience a lot of tingling numbness on the tips of their fingers. There's a lot of inactivity because of smartphone use. The body becomes more and more lethargic. Problems like obesity are also being correlated with excessive use of smartphones. Sleep, I mentioned as an example, as lack of control is one of the prominent problems, that insomnia is happening due to a lot of smartphone usage. So, as a consequence of it, a lot of insomnia happens. It has been understood that people who use a lot of smartphones also experience symptoms of isolation, loneliness, leading on to anxiety and depression. But it has been seen the other way around also. People who have a lot of anxiety or they have depression, they also use a lot of phone. So whether it is a consequence or a result of it is still debatable. But yes, the two are very much closely related to each other. A lot of smartphone use is associated with or is seen in people who have a lot of anxiety disorder or who have depression as a problem. So it's very common. Another uh, problem that has come up recently, and we are seeing that, is that addiction of smartphones specifically is more prominent in younger individuals compared to older individuals. So people who are below the age of 20 and above the age of 11 or 13 they have been seen to have a lot of smartphone addiction problems, leading on to a lot of behavioral issues, lot of anger outbursts, irritability, dysphoria, and even sometimes suicide and self harm is associated with a lot of smartphone usages. Now that is a very it's not it's very difficult to kind of tease out why exactly it's happening. Is it addiction, or is it because of the constant comparison that the young individual does with what they perceive or what they see on the social media, is what is leading to all those actions. But yes, there is a strong correlation of early smartphone usage in the young age and leading on to a lot of behavioral problems, irritability, anger outbursts. Now, whenever we have established that there is an addiction as a problem, there is also a treatment available, right? So what we have to understand first and foremost, that it is not a weakness of personality, weakness of character. The individual is now suffering from addiction. They have to, and when we have established the criteria that I had mentioned, tolerance, withdrawal also. Uh, Withdrawal can be seen in the form of people feeling restless if they're not using their phone. It can be seen in the form of irritability. It can be seen in the form of, snapping at people around them, and constant need to kind of, that desire to reach out to the phone. So that this can be seen as a withdrawal symptom. With substances, the withdrawals are obviously a little different because the whole body also experiences those substances. So a person might have jitteriness or autonomic instability, whether in the form of blood pressure changes, respiration changes, but they are not seen more with smartphone. It's more the behavioral problems or the emotional problems that the person experiences after not using the smartphone for a certain time, a certain period of time. So when we have understood that there is addiction, we have established that there is addiction, and smartphone, let's say, is the problem, then definitely treatment is available. Digital, we say detox is the first and foremost thing that one has to undergo. Now, it's very important that to understand that since withdrawal is not happening at a physical level, so that is why the individual does not require to be in an inpatient setup. This problem can be tackled in an outpatient setup. That means the individual can be at home, but start their therapy and treatment. It's a detox, so to speak. So first and foremost is to stay away from whatever use of phone that they're doing. So involve family members, involve friends, make them a part of the treatment in the sense that try and get a support system which helps you in keeping you away from or monitoring the use of your phone. Because like I mentioned, communication is very important. We have to use our phone. Let's face the reality that this thing is not going anywhere. It's going to stay with us. The phone is going to stay for the rest of our lives for centuries, I believe, and maybe some new advent of technology will come which will take over. But as of now, it's going to stay. So we have to monitor the use of it. Okay, use the family members or friends, or there are certain apps which kind of monitor the use of the app. So start using that. Second aspect is that, like I mentioned, most of the time, either anxiety is the result of it, or due to anxiety, you're using certain, you're engaging in smartphone usage for a prolonged period of time. So what you have to do is address that problem, whether it is anxiety, whether it is depression, whether. So it has been seen that young individuals who have difficulty communicating with their peers, who have difficulty, kind of uh, making friends, in simple terms, individuals who are more introvert are the ones who are using smartphone because it's a way to escape, the physical real world around them. So this becomes a place where they can easily communicate or reach out or understand or be a part of a community or a group without being physically present. So we have to address those issues. We have to understand this is the reason why it is happening, and then how to tackle it, how to make one and the individual kind of become more okay and comfortable engaging in physical surrounding around them. Okay, if there are depression symptoms of depression, then we treat the depression. So if required, we give also, if the diagnosis of depression or anxiety is met, and if it is to an extent that is severe enough, then we will definitely advise certain amount of medication to treat the problem. And at the same time, the use of smartphone will be monitored. So here, one has to understand that it is not just one-on-one. It's a group of people who help in the treatment. It's not for just one individual to kind of take part in the treatment. It's the family members, it's the friends also if required. Um, very rarely, some form of neuromodulation techniques can be used in behavioral addictions. Neuromodulation techniques are something like magnetic RTMS, which is called as repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation, or deep TMS. These are newer modalities of treatment which help in stopping the craving aspect of using any form of substance or any form of behavioral addiction. Though it's very new and it's coming up recently, but way of treating some form of addictions. And very rarely in behavioral addictions, we also use medications such as anti-craving medication. But that is a very rarity, and specifically, like I told you, the DSM or ICD classification system does not recognize smartphone as an addiction as of now. But if the severity of the problem is such that it requires some form of treatment, then anti-craving medication can also be added. But overall, one has to understand how to prevent from becoming addicted to smartphone usages, right? So from time to time, engage in digital detox for every individual, whether you have developed the addiction or not. If you start doing digital detox from time to time, then your chances of getting addicted is very, very less. So what one has to do is, certain hygiene practices, what they have to do is to switch off your mobile. Let's say, keep a time parameter for yourself where you're saying that after 9 p.m., I'm not going to engage in any form of, sorry. After 9 p.m., I'm not going to engage in any form of, interaction over the social media, or I have not used my phone for communication over WhatsApp, and I'll just keep it for receiving calls, let's say. And in my, profession to profession also it matters. Like in my profession, I have to sometimes take calls in the night also, emergency calls. But at least I am not going to call a friend or call anyone after 9 p.m. So I'm kind of creating my boundary or my limit, or I'm using my phone only for the purposes of reaching out a communication in emergency, and the rest of the day I'm using my phone. Then, like I told you, there are certain apps which have certain ways of blocking the usage after a certain point in time. So the moment, let's say 20 minutes are over using that particular app, whether it is social media or gaming, the app shuts down on itself, and it remains shut down, let's say for another 3 hours. And then after 3 hours, you can again start using that app. So these kind of practices will help us prevent, getting addicted to smartphone use. Third important aspect that I would really like to mention is to become engaged in social environment. Talk to your family members face to face, sit with them. Keep the phone away when you're sitting and having lunch or dinner with your peers or with your family members. It's very important that those are the times when you can become really connected to the individuals around you. And that will help prevent any form of addiction, actually. Because we human beings, we are meant to communicate. We are meant to feel, that warmth, that love, so that we don't use certain substances to feel that happiness. Now, I mentioned reward pathway earlier that gets activated when we use certain substances and behavioral addictions. Now, reward pathway, there's a dopamine kind of burst. So we have to do certain activities which help in increasing the dopamine. And that happens by, maybe doing some form of exercise, physical activity. So engage in, if not every day, at least alternate day, 20 to 30 minutes of moderate intensity exercise, going for a brisk walk or jog, cycling, swimming, be in the nature. Those all things increase in the dopamine, release of dopamine in the system. So, engage in those kind of practices, engage in sports activity, group sports activity, kind of helps in bonding and increase in dopamine levels. And lastly is the night's sleep, which is very important. So you sleep on time, you kind of make sure that by 9, 10, whatever time is suitable for you, you get around 7, 8 hours of, night sleep, which in turn helps the brain kind of recover from the previous day's, exhaustion, trauma, whatever. So, if we follow these practices, we will be able to prevent from, any form of addiction. So by that, I think I have covered a lot of topics, but Mr. Shankar, if you have any questions, I would be very happy to answer them.
Yeah, Dr. Kumar, you wonderfully took us through the evolving communication system that happened right from the beginning.
I am not able to hear you. Can you be a little louder?
Can you hear me now? You wonderfully took us through all the communication milestones that happened earlier. So now, earlier we used to say AC, BC and AD. Now you have new terms called the BD and AD, that is before digital and after digital. So you have a generation now living who actually were not born digital. Now you have a generation that is born digital. So do you find any behavioral changes in people who were born in the BD era before digital? For example, I am one of them. Where we never had any smartphone. The only thing that we had in our system was a good old All India radio. So is there any behavioral changes that you find in that generation and in the current generation? Are they more tolerant? Is this generation not tolerant? And what are the other things that you find?
So very interestingly, like I started the talk that we had radios and televisions and everything. So with every generation, there is some form of technology which has come. And we have seen people getting addicted to even listening to radio or watching glued to the television. In my generation, my parents would say, don't sit close to the television, stay away from it, use it this way, use it that way. Now it is the smartphones. And like you said, it is the BD and the AD, the after digital population, the young generation. Interestingly, we are using smartphones, tablets, laptops, even in schools now. And COVID kind of changed the whole scenario altogether where we were not allowing children to use laptops for a long period of time. They all started using for their schoolwork and homeworks and everything. So now it's going to stay. And that's what I was telling you. It's going to stay. We will not be able to keep it away or, kind of remove the whole system. Now, as such, with the use of smartphones in younger population, we have seen that there are certain changes in the brain, which leads to a lot of decrease in attention span, decrease in focus for longer duration, wanting to always, the brain needs a lot of stimulation in some individuals. So not every child that uses the smartphone or a digital platform will experience this, but the majority have started experiencing that continuous need for stimulation. At the same time, some individuals who are very young, who started using smartphones, but monitored way, also, utilized it in a beautiful way to become more, good at their, academics. So it's very difficult to tease out which individual will benefit and which individual will not benefit. But as such, the decrease in attention span, decrease and increased need for continuous stimulation is what is seen is the younger individual who has been using smartphone or any form of digital platform from a very young age. That's the only difference.
Now you are into geriatric psychiatry, if I am right, in your introduction. So one of the things that is said about the human brain is that you either use it or lose it. So do you think that the elder generation is benefited due to smartphones because they're using this quite often and their brain is active? So will they not succumb to dementia or Alzheimer's?
Well, it's not necessarily that smartphones will help you in becoming more sharper and attentive. There are n number of puzzle games, mind games. You play chess, for example. You can play chess physically also with an opponent. You don't have to necessarily use a smartphone. You can play Sudoku, physical on a physical paper. And in fact, we in the psychiatry department, we ask people to use and kind of play more on pen and paper, because it also helps them in coordination, holding the pen. So if I'm looking at geriatric psychiatry, then I would want them to engage in a lot of mental games, puzzles, but more so not necessarily on the platform like smartphone, but otherwise. But if an individual likes doing it on a smartphone, I would not stop them from using it. Yeah. So if they are used to it, and interestingly, I have seen that the individuals who are willing to use smartphones remain sharper. That's a different thing. But individuals who find it very challenging are the ones who probably have difficulty engaging in a lot of cognitive tasks. So that becomes a differentiator for me to understand whether they need some form of help. Right? So whenever an individual comes who is of a generation BD, before digital, I ask the family members whether they're using smartphone or not, and how capable are they in using the smartphone. Let's say sending a picture on WhatsApp, on a group text, or how they are doing those tasks. That helps me understand what their mental capability is.
That's good. You also mentioned that you need to have physical activities like swimming, walking. Now, what is the role of yoga and meditation in digital therapy?
Thank you for asking this question. So it's any form of yoga whether it is breathing exercises or whether it is holding asanas, is equally important. They also regulate our autonomic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system. They bring about good changes in the brain specifically. Similarly, meditation, even as low as 5 to 10 minutes, that is also beneficial. People who engage in a longer duration of meditation, I'm not saying that. Just 5-10 minutes is also sufficient. So yoga, meditation, any form of exercise is actually helpful. There are a lot of research happening in this field with yoga and meditation specifically, how it impacts the mental health. So there is something called as default mode network, which is kind of the part of the brain. It's not exactly a part, it's a network of brain tissue, which kind of helps us function or give us our identity. So that kind of becomes much stronger when we use meditation practices. So that definitely helps.
Thank you very much. Please stay back because we will have the second round of questions. And just to remind our viewers that we are live on Facebook and YouTube. I now invite Ms. Kanika to give her presentation, and we'll follow it up after that.
Thank you, Dr. Shankar. Can you see my slides?
Yeah.
Right. And are they moving?
Yeah.
Are they moving? Can somebody
Yes.
please?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you, HEAL Foundation, Dr. Shankar Vigya, and HEAL Foundation team for having me today. It's always good to talk about topics of relevance in today's digital world. So today I shall be talking about SDG, that is Sustainable Development Goals. de-addiction of the drugs, tobacco, alcohol, and of course the smartphones. I know we are focusing more on nutrition and smartphones, but since we're talking about addiction, I would like to emphasize the connection between all of these. So, just to have a quick intro about ACHE and why we are doing this session. The Asian Coalition for Health Empowerment, ACHE, is an non-governmental organization that aims to support the health empowerment for all, because we believe that education is the holds that power, and hence we organize such webinars in person and online to continue and foster that collaboration amongst everybody and to foster relevant information from our desk to everybody. And hence being clinical in practice, being a clinical dietitian, I always support research and advocacy based health empowerment initiatives. So hence the motive and why we are doing this session, because we want to highlight the SDG 3, the Sustainable Development Goals, that says to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being at all ages and stages, and discuss the concept of the addictions and how nutrition can help in combating these addictions, and hence it can empower everybody with the power of right information, relevant information. So, coming to some numbers that I would like to put across, these are the prevalence numbers for the global addiction part, wherein from drugs to alcohol to smartphone, these are alarming numbers, wherein a large segment of population is falling prey to these addictions, and they end up losing lives as well. If you see point number 6, globally an estimated 6,29,000 people died as a result of drug use. It affects the families, I would say. The addiction, when we are talking about the phone addiction or the smartphone addiction, the addiction of tobacco and smoking and alcohol also has a part to play. I'll discuss that, how the impact of addiction on human health, as Dr. Mantosh rightly mentioned, it is a chronic medical disease. It is a complex interaction between the environment, between your own genetics, your own life experiences, and your brain. It causes serious harms such as cancer as well, harm to the society. It is not a moral failing or a personal choice, but sometimes it goes out of hands. We want to de-addict from this particular behavior, but we are not able to. So it requires medical attention and support, and this addiction and health are intertwined with each other when we talk about the SDG 3, because and hence comprehensive solutions are needed, wherein we need all the pillars. We need the mental health also, we need nutrition also, we need doctors intervention as well, maybe medications. So we need different multidisciplinary approach when we're talking about the comprehensive solutions to address this global issue of de-addiction. Now, diseases related to smoking, I'll quickly just touch this upon the harm that this particular thing has on every organ of the body, and it is a major risk factor for a lot of diseases as well, the chronic ones. And talking about the alcohol, it also affects the nervous system, and we have seen this behavior in my practice also. We've seen the compulsive behavior that Dr. Mantosh also mentioned. It harms the physical and the mental health, the nervous system, the autonomous nervous system, the other parts as well. Now, alcohol and smoking are directly, I would say, they do play a part. People who indulge in this particular addictions, also negatively interferes with the social functioning. And 28% of the young adults are affected, like we mentioned, after 11, 12 years of age and below 20. So I think the smartphone addiction is the new pandemic, I would say, because it is growing and there is no end to it, and we have to live with it. That is the uh, dangerous, alarming part to it. So, how this complex nature of addiction and mental health disorder functions, it is a involving medical concern, and the chronic substance use affects our body. It has cognitive impacts. We spoke about the reward system, the pleasure circuit, the dopamine, and hence this has a huge impact, and therefore this needs integrated approach. Now, how this integrated approach can happen, because we need to consider the risk factors. We need to consider the brain damage and cognitive functions. We need to understand the pattern, the vulnerable populations, and then we need to tailor make the treatment approaches accordingly. Where nutrition comes in this particular addiction of smartphone or any other substance, it plays a crucial role in the brain chemistry. So like we spoke, we have societal vulnerability, we have alcohol contributing as well to an extent, and we have individual vulnerability also, and together this particular triad uh, happens to be a burden on the healthcare system and society. This is a very interesting study that I wanted to showcase. When we talk about addiction, uh, nutrient deficiencies have also been seen. Now, this is particularly related to heavy drug and alcohol usage, wherein we see that a lot of nutrient deficiencies happen, right from iron to vitamin C and all of this. But when we're talking about smartphone addiction, a lot of mindless eating happens. And, when you are glued to your smartphones, or I've seen, especially in the corporate world or in the corporate culture, even if they are having lunch, even if they are, indulging in some activity which is not, which doesn't require phone per se, they have chapati in one hand and they have phone in the other hand. So it is that bad. And sometimes they are on the OTT platforms, of course, the spine and the everything is getting affected, as Dr. Mantosh put in. But when they have the phone right in front of them, so, they are losing out on the track of what they are eating, and that continuous mindless munching also contributes to this nutrient deficiencies that we are talking about. So, inadequate intake of the proper food and inadequate intake of nutritious food has been linked to an increased risk of addictive behaviors. So, we need to consider the pattern that we are looking at. And similarly, the role of nutrients in neurotransmitter regulation, wherein neurotransmitters, for the biochemical processes, they require nutrients. And, nutrients like magnesium and, nutrients like zinc, vitamin C, iron, all these are required. And we are losing out when we are mindlessly watching, or we are under the pressure of finishing off an OTT series wherein our peers have watched that and we have not, and we have to finish that off. And that's where the insomnia and the other problems also set in. So, yeah, the neurotransmitter part also gets hampered. And of course, because of this pattern, there is a lot of oxidative stress. We don't really know what we are eating mindlessly. We keep on munching, and we are, a lot of times because of the information overload on the smartphones, keep seeing a lot of interesting, they seem interesting recipes, or a lot of information around the food, and we keep experimenting that, not knowing that if it is good for us or not. I've seen this kind of behavior as well, wherein day in day out people send me reels, can I try this recipe or can I try that recipe, whilst they are dealing with chronic ailments like PCOD. So they don't really know what to include in their routine when it comes to nutrition, or what is not good for them, and hence they lose out on important nutrients such as antioxidants, and that's where the real problem starts. The nutrients for addiction recovery, I would say these are the four pillars: omega-3, B vitamins, magnesium, antioxidants that can help while we are talking about the recovery, addiction recovery. And hydration is a very important aspect, because nowadays we forget to drink water. I always emphasize people to have, reminders. We spoke about apps that help you with the addiction. Let me tell you, there are apps that remind you to drink water as well. So people who forget drinking water should download these apps for sure, wherein it will help them uh, maintain those adequate hydration levels, because they forget to drink water when they are in office or at home or how. And consistent meal timing is another aspect to manage the cravings and stabilizing the mood, because long gaps or between the meals hampers with the glucose supply in your brain, because we forget eating or we don't have time to eat, especially people who are in the field, who are in constant touch of smartphones. Their jobs are demanding, especially people who are social media managers, wherein the social media handles are their bread and butter, so we know that there is a problem, but we need to figure out solutions accordingly, and hence hydration, downloading apps like this, mindful eating, and consistently eating, deliberately reminding ourselves to, eat three major meals and two mini meals in between, so that the essential supply of glucose is there to get your vehicle running. And promoting mindful eating practices, conducting nutrition education sessions in corporates like these. I think all these things will help people around to manage the addictions to smartphones and unhealthy eating patterns. And these are some of the healthy alternatives to addictive substances. Whenever you feel that craving, or whenever you feel that craving to, I would say, even to check your phone or something like that, even if you take a healthy break, wherein you are doing a walk, or nowadays a lot of podcasts and stuff are available for medication, on the apps. But I would suggest, even if you can just find a simple place, or I think if the especially corporates, if they can have a meditation zone in their offices, wherein people, we have smoking zones, so I'm sure we can have meditation zones as well. And maybe encouraging the physical activity part, wherein they indulge into some sort of activity, and having good healthy snacks in their cafeterias instead of the fried ones, or which are high on salt and sugar. I think these are some of the healthier choices that as society, as community, we can make to help each other break that chain of addiction to unhealthy food or smartphones. I would briefly like to touch upon the benefits of smoking cessation or therapies like NRTs, nicotine replacement therapy, because that forms an essential part when we're talking about the addiction from smoking. Uh, why I'm talking about this is because I see this behavior, it's very peculiar behavior of taking smoke breaks in today's culture, and these kind of uh, uh, these kind of solutions that we're talking about, long term abstinence, all these solutions that we're talking about, it will help decrease the risk of premature deaths, and improvement in the physical and mental health, wherein people are just having their smartphone in their hand and a ciggy in their other hand, and it's a very deadly combination. Hence, I just wanted to briefly touched upon the benefits of this cessation, wherein it gives you the financial stability, it enhances the quality of life, and of course, the mental health part. So, in a nutshell, a healthy lifestyle, eating mindfully, managing the correct portion size, abstaining from using of smartphones when you are, watching, when you are eating the food and not watching. I would say even if you don't need TV and smart TVs or phones also while you're watching, while you're eating your food, you need to sit in a very calm environment, and you need to eat your food first with your five senses, and then eat that from your mouth, because if we will not start doing this in a more sensible way, mindless eating is bound to happen. And we need to spend time with the family, with a zero phone zone and involvement, and so that we can fight this de-addiction together, and we can help each other fight this de-addiction together. And because the doctors are the frontline champions of these kind of health education and literacy webinars that we keep organizing for our audience, we need to also understand that there is a lot of infodemic around us, wherein we are mindlessly scrolling through the reels or the social media, and hence authentic information and stories should come from doctors and healthcare professionals, and that's where we have Doc Helix, wherein people can come and they can read relevant and trusted information from medical experts, made by experts on different topics, and the content is a very doctor approved content, I would say, because everybody deserves that right to right health information, and this is how it looks. You can log into dochelix.com and start having your regular dose, say 5 minute dose, daily dose of your information. That's about it. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and looking forward to questions. Dr. Shankar, you're on mute. If you could unmute yourself, please.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Kanika, you spoke about a culture, corporate culture, where you have chapati on one hand and the mobile on the other, and how people do not know what they eat. But I'd also like to take you to a generation where parents give digital a tab on one hand and a spoon on the other for children, and the life starts there. In my days, if I didn't eat, my mother used to say that there is a policeman coming around. Now you have a digital policeman where you have digital. So when children just open their mouth, and what the parents say is, look at how Tom is opening his mouth, and then the food goes in. So the starting point is actually the parental control. So where does this parent come into the picture?
Tell me about it. I have a toddler running in my home, so I'm very well aware.
I could hear the toddler, so I was wondering where the toddler is.
Yes, it was just in front of me. So tell me about it. And this is a very even if I am the bad cop at home, there are good cops around me who are encouraging this kind of behavior. And I myself encounter this kind of thing wherein I'm continuously fighting away not to have this, connection of smartphone and, the food that they are eating, how Tom is opening the mouth and stuff, for the rhymes are, running in the front so that they are distracted and they eat. But I think this is a habit that we need to inculcate as parents. This is our responsibility. For me, I'm a young parent, so definitely it's my responsibility to inculcate this kind of behavior wherein we need to have that boundary. We need to have that set screen time, and we need to monitor the screen time as well, because I've seen children 5 years, 6 years of age. If these behaviors are not controlled in the initial stage, it backfires to an extent wherein they are demanding that I need to watch my favorite cartoon show, else I will not eat, or else I will not do this, or else I will not do that. And that behavior is it is not a pleasant behavior. It's not a pleasant environment for the entire household as well. So, as parents, we need to take that charge. We need to reduce those views on YouTube, which are in millions and millions, wherein those repeated rhymes are being watched again and again. And we need to put a stop somewhere by defining the screen time, and by defining and not combining it with the eating time or the me
Yeah,
time.
I think in one of the next episodes we'll have you tell us about your tips about how you keep your child away from the digital world.
Absolutely.
And so I just briefly tell you one more thing is that you spoke about this information technology or the digital thing being a pandemic. Now,
Right.
thankfully, one pandemic is behind us. So, do you think that there is this pandemic will peak and then subside after some time? Will there be a digital fatigue in the future?
I think digital fatigue is already there, and like Dr. Mantosh had put in, this is bound to stay. And the kind of technology-driven world that we are foraying into, wherein payments are getting digitalized, and everything is getting digitalized. Meals, you can order meals on apps at your doorstep. So it is that level of digitalization and the pool of apps that we have around, for everything. So this is, I think, here to stay. While we embrace the digitalization, we need to also understand that mindfulness has to be an important aspect of our lifestyles as well, be it phone, be it snacking, or right snacking, or whatever. So I think mindfulness is the key word here when we are talking about the digital overload. And that is another aspect that we need to embrace. This is not going anywhere. The digitalization will keep happening. The infodemic will keep on increasing. There are a lot of unqualified experts who are spreading wrong information. This, as healthcare providers, this is our responsibility to tell people what is right and what is not so right. So I think I take this responsibility as a healthcare provider, and whichever best possible way I can contribute, I shall.
Yeah, thank you. Vidya has been shooting a couple of digital arrows at me because I have stepped into her time. So I will now hand it over to Vidya for her second round of questions.
So,
So I had pen and paper, but I have been writing questions on my phone. So that's the height of digital addiction. I am also.
till the moment I don't write my stuff like this with a pen and a paper, there is no mental clarity that I have. So I am old school that ways.
It's good that we are having this discussion. So, Dr. Mantosh, my question to you would be: so, Shankar sir asked you a difference between the behavioral changes AD and BD, before digitalization and after digitalization. I want you to answer or tell us or share your experience. Have you got a chance to experience difference between the digital addiction in rural and urban areas? If you can, if you have experienced the changes, the differences.
So, while I was giving the talk, I mentioned about this aspect that that phone or smartphone is available with most of the people, even in rural population these days. And India being a country where internet and the use of internet is actually very, very, it's not very expensive for people to kind of get packs of internet. So the use has increased overall in urban and rural areas both. But yes, there is some difference. Urban population has more chances or more digital addiction or addiction of smartphones compared to rural population, because still there are a lot of social gatherings which happen, and a lot of opportunities to physically involve in a lot of work or chores at home compared to what people hear in urban cities. So there's a slight difference, but it is too soon to even talk about it as such, because this using the term addiction for smartphone is in itself very new. It is just coming up. So it's very difficult to tease out the differences between these two. It's more like in speculation rather, that this probably is the difference. There is probably a difference.
Yeah, thank you. Now to you, Ms. Kanika. So I am falling short of questions because you've beautifully covered the topic and you have actually answered all the unasked questions already. But I would want to know that the damage is being done, where the damage is being done by mindless eating. What can we do to rectify those damages?
See, like I said, we need to understand the word mindfulness here. So I know the damage is done and mindless eating is happening, but I think mindful munching, because the screen, let me just take a step back, because the screens affect the digestion part as well. And when things start affecting your gut, it starts affecting to the whole system. And distracted eating caused by phones or TV can negatively impact the digestion if it is done in excessive amounts, because it can lead to that unhealthy habit part. And there are digestive downside as well of distracted eating. There is reduced saliva production. When we put food in our mouths, the digestion starts in the mouth. We call it mastication. And when we are focused on the screen, be it smartphone or TV, we chew less. We tend to gulp more because leading to less saliva. And saliva breaks down the food for easier digestion. So there is reduced saliva production. There is slower stomach emptying because the distracted eating can delay stomach emptying. It causes discomfort and things like bloating, constipation, again, going to the gut. There is increased stress hormones in your body, increased level of cortisols, because screen time elevates the stress hormones to an extent, yes, and hence it hinders the digestion. There is unconscious consumption of food, be it high salt, high fat, high sugar snacks, or even if it is a healthy snack, we tend to mindlessly munch and overdo that as well, because we lose track of what we are eating, because we just have the screen in front and the hand is going like this. So what we put in our mouth is our choice. It is nobody else's. Nobody else is coming and putting things into your mouth. It's your own hand. It's your own hand mouth coordination, what we talk about. So convenience is winning over the healthy options and unhealthy snacking, and that's where the damage is getting done. Healthy snacking or healthy eating is the solution here because we are talking about snacking. So I'll pick that. When we are having our major meals, no distraction should be there. It's a strict no policy that we should follow. But when we are even if we are in front of the screens and we need to plan our snacks, even if it is, say, for example, I see this concept of movie date, wherein couples are spending, they don't have time to spend with each other. They have corporate lives and they are just trying to have that movie date at home with expensive home theater systems and stuff. And those 3 hours they are spending time with quality time with each other. Please plan your snacks in advance. Fruits, vegetables, nuts, a lot of healthy baked air fried snacks can also be a part of your movie dates, and practice portion controls as well, which will lead to mindful munching, and keep drinking water during your movie breaks. So I think even if we involve the kids in the healthy snacking preparation, if we are talking about the screen time that we are giving to the kids, that yes, this is 1 hour of screen time. And if that happens to be an evening time wherein they are to be fed snacks, involve those kids in healthy snack preparations. Let them choose those colorful foods, fruits, veggies, or maybe, create a snack like fun kebabs in front of them. And by making these small changes, at least they know what they are preparing and why they are doing what they are doing. So involving kids at that stage while you are preparing the snacks in the kitchen for that particular person, I think these are small things, actionable, practical things that can reduce the damage that is happening.
Very rightly said. So now, Shankar sir, over to you if you want to.
Yeah, we are running short of time. Now we have everything called the digital romance. We have the digital shopping. We have digital everything going digital. But I'm waiting for one of those days where you have a digital food also, where you just look at the screen and your stomach is full. So I hope that era would soon come, and let us see how we go, because everything now we have artificial intelligence, we have AGI, we have so many things coming up. So I can't rule this out. But anyway, closing this session, I would request Dr. Mantosh and Ms. Kanika to give their closing remarks for this wonderful session.
It's called smartphone, but unfortunately, we are becoming dumber. So it's time that we also become smart enough to understand where the use is and where the misuse starts. So that's all I have to say. Over to Kanika, please.
So I would like to give my closing remarks for those struggling with phone addiction or eating disorders. Incorporating mindful eating into your daily routines can be transformative. Do intentional unplugging from devices during meals, and be in the moment, tune into the present moment, break free from the grip of phone addiction, and reclaim your control over your own eating habits. And you will see that the practice of mindful eating will serve as a potent antidote to the toxic cycle of phone addiction and eating disorders.
Thank you, both of you, for the wonderful remarks. And then I now hand it over to Vigya for her closing remarks. And with a wonderful dress, she'll go to the church very shortly after that.
Yes. So as we come to an end of our webinar, I want to take a moment to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our speakers, Dr. Mantosh and Ms. Kanika Malhotra, and of course to you, Shankar sir, and all the audience for the participation and engagement throughout the session. Remember, the journey to wellness is a continuous one. And each step we take towards prioritizing our mental and physical health is significant. With this, we end today's webinar and today's session. Thank you so much for your participation and your time. Thank you.
Thank you, and hope it's going to be a non-digital day.
Yes. Hopefully.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.